Okay, so I'm going to talk about a subject. I actually I've done 10 minutes before, but my battery ran out, so I have to restart, which is about grooming. Now, and I call it the Muslim grooming gangs. And the reason I call that is gonna be explained in this video, because I get a lot of hate. I think because of this one subject. Because my stance on Islam, I was thinking about it. I never actually even talk about theology in any way because I think it's pointless talking about beliefs. I believe in God, they believe in God, they believe in Muhammad and God as well, and I believe in my guru. So what's the point of talking about it? And their belief structure is their belief structure, and I don't talk about it. So I don't even really talk about that. I do criticize Sharia because I think that's man-made, in my opinion, but I don't criticize theology. I don't see the point in it, to be honest. It's just pointless. And so I always used the analogy of if Sikhs stole and were convicted of stealing 65% of apples, yeah. So I'm a Sikh and I didn't steal these though, but imagine if I did, and I kept on stealing apples 65% of the time, like conviction rates, but Sikhs only make up 1% of the population. You would want to ask yourself, why are Sikhs stealing apples? Because the disproportion is out of sync. And this is the main thing. The disproportion between what I call the grooming epidemic is that you have a population of Muslims which is 4%, but you have a conviction rate. Remember, this is a conviction rate. This ain't even about everyone that's been found of 85%. Yeah. So why is this? Now the thing is, I'm going to go over why I think this is, and before I do, I need to explain the two different types of sexual abuse, because this is where people start to misconstrue the figures and try and put a slant on it. Um, so here you go. I'll let them eat the apple. I didn't steal the apples. Remember that. Show them what you're doing. Because I think you lot prefer the dogs than me. This is the problem. When I go back home, because remember this ain't my house, this is my sister's. I'm not going to be doing videos like this anymore. They're going to be pretty much straight to camera with my weird face. So I'm going to probably make you lot sick. So what it is that, so I'm going to explain, and yeah, I have got water for the dogs because a lot of people think I'm mistreating the dogs and they're going to die or something. Oh, look at that beautiful pigeon. And so, a lovely day today as well. So, I'm going to explain the different types of sexual abuse. Now, you have two types of sexual abuse that is officially recognized by the government, and that is type 2. So, I'm going to go type 2 first, which is sexual abuse of with pedophilia, where somebody is targeted because for the main reason because they're kids. Yeah, they like young kids. And so the conviction rate for that particular crime is predominantly from white Caucasian males. And so you have a population of white Caucasian males, which is probably around, I mean, the white population is probably around 90%. Uh, and the kind of conviction rates and of this particular crime, yeah, is 95% Caucasian white males. So although it's slightly out of proportion, just a little bit, it's not massively. It's a tiny little proportion, and so you know, it's obviously it's still completely disgusting, but the proportions are not out. And so what we have is a completely separate situation, which is type one uh, sexual abuse, which is actually about what we call where people are not targeting these people or girls or boys because of their age. It's not about pedophilia, but it's about vulnerability. So these girls could be, up to the age of 20, 21, 22, 23. But the reason why they're targeted mainly is because they're vulnerable and they're easily manipulated. But there have been girls, loads of them, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. And in that particular crime, yeah, in conviction rates, you have a Muslim population of 4%, but the conviction rate's 85%. So as you can see, that's a massive disproportion. Now I'm going to explain why I call it Muslim grooming gangs, because this is the thing that I think really makes people angry. Because I've shifted my views a lot on a lot of things about Islam and terrorism. Because I used to think Salafis were all terrorists, and now I know that's not true. And so I've shifted my views on a lot of things, but the one thing I'm not going to shift my view on is that I'm not going to stop calling them Muslim grooming gangs. Now I'm going to explain why I've come to that conclusion, and why I believe it to be true, and it is one of the reasons why I kind of feel that I get so much animosity, because I'm highlighting something that people want to brush under the carpet. And so the way I see it is this: look, I'm gonna ask the I'm gonna break it down into kind of what I call a toxic mix of three things. And look how beautiful these dogs are, though. Yeah, if you have a look, I mean, why would anyone not want a black dog to be in the house? Look, look, look! Come in the house, Bullet. Let's see what happens if the angels are allowed in the house. I'm sure the angels will still come in. Poor Bullet, they're telling me that because you're in the house, no angels could come into the house. I'm sure they will still be in because he's a beautiful dog. Don't put that kind of pressure on Bullet. Look, tell him. Have a look in the camera. Come here. Have a look in the camera. Look. Tell them. They're saying that angels can't come in the house. Yeah, sorry. I'm just trolling a bit. Sorry. And so I'm going to explain this toxic mix, which I believe is the cause of the grooming epidemic within the Muslim community. And I've said it before, but I'm going to say it again. So before I go on, I want to ask people to ask themselves this particular question: can something bad come from something good? Yeah, can something bad come from something good? So I'm going to use, before I explain this, I'm going to use a comparison, which is actually the Catholic priests. Now, the Catholic priests have been caught abusing kids. I mean, on an industrial scale, which is puts every other abuse scandal to shame. And the reason why I think this has happened is because priests are being told, Catholic priests, that they have to be celibate to be a priest. And so celibacy in itself is maybe a noble endeavor. You could say it's a good thing to try and challenge yourself like that. But from that good thing, a bad kind of consequence can happen, because most men are not made to be celibate. Yeah, most men are not made to be forced to be celibate. And so what happens? They start deviating, and what happens is that they'll start seeing the kids, and they'll start releasing their energy, releasing that frustration and sexual energy in a really negative way, where they're abusing kids all over the place. And there's a common thread from that. No one can deny that the priests are doing this. And why are they doing this? I believe it's because of the doctrine of celibacy. And so you can blame the Catholic Church for that. The Vatican, you can blame them for that and say, look, priests should not be celibate. And they will never, I'll go over it in a future date, but this celibacy thing is nothing really to do with Christianity. It's something that was imposed by the Catholic Church for their own reasons, which I don't want to say now. And so what then happens is this. Look, I'm going to talk about the toxic mix of the three things that I believe is causing this issue within the Pakistani majority. Remember, Pakistanis make up the majority of the Muslim community, so the majority will be Pakistani that are going to be convicted. Now, I'm my family is from the Punjab, and most Pakistanis, a lot of them, maybe 50%, are actually from the Punjab as well, but on the Pakistani side. But before 1947, we were actually living together, so genetically we're pretty much the same people. If you don't DNA test, I don't think there'll be much difference between us. The only thing is really faith and inbreeding as well. Stop that inbreeding crap, please. It's a really stupid, disgusting thing. I will talk about that as well at some point. It causes a lot of problems. So let me talk about the toxic mix, which I call. The first one is when something good, yeah, can cause something bad. So let's describe this. So you have a culture, the Islamic culture, which sees traditional values and women being modest as a good thing, and I actually agree with that. Yeah, I think modesty and being, not drinking and not behaving in a particular way is a good trait. and should be kind of looked up upon. And so what you but for me, I think the Islamic culture takes it to the next degree of like pressure. And so what you have is a culture which separates men and women as well in the Pakistan. Remember, the Sikh community and the Hindu community don't have this. We do have a pretty open kind of gender mixing. When you go to a temple in the Sikh temple, my mum was in the committee. We used to have the person in charge of the temple was actually a woman for like 4 years. We have free mixing in the kitchens. Men and women are cooking together, washing up together, eating together. We also have, when we pray together. You know, we're not separated. Women can do prayers. Women can do pretty much almost nearly everything, not everything, but nearly everything a man is allowed to do in a temple. And trust me, nothing goes on there. We're not suddenly like become depraved and start, like having orgies and stuff like that because we're mixing. It doesn't happen like that. You know, I don't know. I don't know. I'm not sure what Muslims think is going to happen if women start suddenly walking into a mosque and free mixing. Nothing's going to happen as long as they dress modestly and stuff like that, and men's dress modestly. I've not heard very many cases. And so what happens is that, in the Muslim community, it's completely different. You have a complete gender separation in all pretty much nearly all areas, and then on top of that, you have this situation where men are told, to lower your gaze when you see a woman. Now that's quite in itself not a terrible thing. It's a respectful thing, but it's completely impractical in the West. Completely impractical. You just watching the video of Ali Dawa talking to this girl where he cop blocked Saeed, a very beautiful American lady, and what did he do? He had to look in her eyes. He could not look into her eyes. She then put her hand out to shake his hand, and he refused to shake it. It was so awkward. I might put a link into the video. Like, it was so awkward. Like, what is the point? Just because you touch a woman's hand, what's going to happen to you? Are you going to suddenly become a sex craved lunatic? And so you're putting this pressure onto men that is unnatural. You're telling men that women should be covered up, yeah, which in itself I think is a good thing. Being covering and being modest. My sisters are always covered. My older sister's a very strict Sikh, and so she actually has her head covered all the time. And I actually like the hijab in itself. I can't stand the niqab. I think it's just gone way too far. And so what happens is that you're telling these young Muslims from very young age up to where they start hitting puberty and they start getting their hormones and they start becoming sexually active that women need to be covered. Women are separate. Women should not be looked at. They're gems. They're this and they're that. And in itself, it's a good idea. Remember I said about something being a good idea having bad consequences. So remember that. So in itself is a good idea. But then you have this situation where obviously that you're also told that in heaven you're going to get 72 virgins. It's a very sexualized kind of thing going on here. Like, women are almost like commodities, sexual commodities that need to be covered up, that need to be not seen and not to kind of fantasize over and everything like that. And so you then have this kind of, I think, a pent up frustration, sexual frustration, and that you don't have in the Sikh community or the Hindu community because we don't have that doctrine within the faith. We have a traditional values, but none of this doctrine. Then you have the second toxic mix, which I call the South Asian, Middle Eastern kind of toxic mix, mainly in the South Asian community because of the fact that India, Bangladesh, and Pakistan and stuff like that, which is of honor. And we all have that within all of our communities. There's an honor base, and the women are the honor. The women are the honor. If the women do something, the honor of the community is going down. Like you literally, like, a man can do whatever he wants, and pretty much nothing's gonna change in terms of their honor. I reckon the guys that have been grooming and get convicted and get out will just get married and live normal lives. But if a woman was to be convicted of do something sexually, she would be outcast. And so what happens then is obviously you have this situation where men are what was I saying? I forgot. Oh yeah, the honor culture within our communities, and it's within the Sikh community as well. So like when my family situation happened 10 years ago, We tried to keep it under the carpet. Things have changed now, so 10 years later, it's not as raw, and so we've managed to kind of like think about. At that time, we should have handled it differently, but because of honor, we kind of like didn't go 100% how I think we should have went. Now that I look back, and so we have this honor culture, like I said, and misogyny as well. Still, where men are men. There's nothing wrong with that, men being men and women being women, but it can be quite, in particular cultures, it can be overwhelming. And so what happens is that we're told that women should be like this and women should be like that. And now this is the third toxic mix, which I believe is the biggest problem, and not the biggest problem in the sense that it's a problem for the white community or the Asian. It's a biggest problem in the sense that you have this situation where we're in the West, and you have women that are you know, living their lives and doing what they want and dressing how they want and drinking when they want and doing this and going out and everything like that. And when somebody from, I say, a Muslim background has this kind of view of women that is not the same as, say, say Sikhs, we then have this toxic mix. So they see these women as lesser. So because they're not covered, because they're not because they're drinking, and remember, Sikh girls are more free as well. So we have this situation where we do have Sikh girls that drink and go out and all this kind of stuff. And I've very rarely met a Muslim girl that drinks, to be honest. That's one thing I've always respected about them. I'm like, wow, I remember knowing some Muslim girls. We used to hang around with them. We used to go out. They never used to drink, and they were always respectable. And I used to always find that quite uh, something that I used to always really like. Whereas Sikh girls do drink, a lot of them. Uh, and so then you have this toxic mix, obviously, of uh, women behaving in a way that a Muslim man finds disrespectful or not honourable. And so they see her as garbage. That's what I believe. I think they see her as garbage. Not garbage in this. All right, let me rephrase. I think they see her as easy meat then. And so they're like, all right, she doesn't behave like the way a woman should behave. So, all right, we'll treat her like trash. And that in itself is the problem. And I'm gonna put one more aspect into it now, which I should have added in the beginning. There's a kind of a real divide between kuffar and non-kuffar that needs to be taken into a kuffar and a Muslim. And that needs to be taken into account, because I think that this particular thing about a non-Muslim and a Muslim is very destructive, because when a Muslim man sees a non-Muslim woman who's behaving in a particular fashion, I think for them it's fair game. That she's not a Muslim woman, so she doesn't deserve the same respect, and because she's behaving in a particular way, she doesn't deserve the same respect, and so then have the real kind of negative, toxic mix that then creates the grooming epidemic within the Muslim community. Now, like I said, that doesn't mean that these people are doing grooming are behaving Islamically, but the doctrines of Islam about this separation between men and women, this real kind of high emphasis on modesty and stuff like that, in itself, the modesty thing is a good thing, but it's causing a lot of problems when you're in a country in the West where modesty and all of this is not what is the norm anymore. So you're having young guys that are really, walking around and seeing girls that are got hardly anything on and this and that and behaving in a way, and their sexual hormones are going all over the place. And like a Catholic priest who, uh, tries to suppress his urges, they become deviant. And so this is what's happened with the Muslim community, where they're targeting really young girls. And I need to like say to the Muslim community, like, you could have sorted this shit out, yeah, because I'm sick and tired of it. Out of everything, this is the one thing I will not change my mind on. You could teach me about Islam, you could take me to the mosque, you could do this, and I would change my mind in a lot of things, but I cannot change my mind on this because I know it to be true. And Sikhs have been fighting for about it for such a long time, and I keep on saying it. I'm so sick and tired of it. I know guys that went prison, man. Think about it. They were trying to save a girl being pimped out, and they went prison, and the guys that are pimping were seen as the victims. It is absolutely disgraceful, man. Absolutely, they should be seen as heroes. And even Tommy Robinson, the reason why I support him so much is because he highlighted this issue when no one else would within the Sikh community from like 7, 8, 9 years ago. And even now he's in prison for talking and trying to expose this particular issue. Obviously, everybody, even if you look at the situation with the grooming epidemic, they're going to be a splattering of Sikhs in there, a little bit of Hindus in there, a little bit of thingy whites, but they're all in proportion to their populations normally. So you might have one or two in there, but the majority will be from the Muslim community. And you're talking about Afghans, you're talking about Iraqis, people from Iran, people from uh, everywhere, like Bangladesh and India, but majority Pakistani. And I'm sick and tired of the Muslims saying, "Oh, well, it's not a Muslim issue because there's no Filipinos in there. Oh, there's no Somalians in there. There were a few. Oh, there's no people from Africa in there who are Muslim. So, what do you want to do? Does the only way you're going to accept it is when there's every single nationality from a Muslim country in there? Is that when you're going to accept the fact that it's a problem with the Muslim grooming gangs? Because I'm telling you, this is not going to go away. This is the one problem that, unless it's tackled head on, and people admit there's a problem within the Muslim community with this, the shit will hit the fan at some point. Everything else, I think, can be resolved to a certain degree, like the extremism, terrorism, and people's misunderstanding about Islam and all this and stuff. But this one thing is the one thing that is pissing people off to the max, which is making people very angry, including myself. Which is why I'm so vocal and I'm always kind of like banging on about it. And I hear comments I'm going to read some comments out later about some Muslim people saying, "Oh well, maybe your cousin shouldn't have gone out then. Maybe it was your parents' fault." Shut up, you fucking pricks. Yeah, sorry for swearing. Shut up. It's that kind of attitude that has caused this problem. Yeah, you blame the victims. I said to my nephew, yeah, I said, look, if I told you that, as an old man, like 43, oh, let's go out and I've got some 12-year-old girl that we're going to kind of like, share, what would you do to me? Do you know what he said? He said he'd kick the shit out of me and he would drag me to the police station. That is the normal behavior of people. But you have whole families. I mean, I swear to God, I will list them. Like brothers, uncles, even a dad in one of them, I think. It's sick that you can go around with your family members and it's completely normal to be having sex with little kids and raping and grooming them and stuff like that. Whole families, brothers. There's been a case, I think there was 4 brothers. It's not normal, yeah? And you need to understand that. Now, the next generation can be saved and that can be kind of weeded out of them. But at the moment, until you start accepting this fact, yeah, the situation will only get worse. And it will only get to a point where everyone's just gonna blow up. And like in the 80s when the Sikhs set up the Sher Punjab, big up Sher Punjab, man. Yeah, I designed their logo in the 80s, not in the 90s. Not a lot of people know that. And although I wasn't part of the group per se, I knew a lot of the members, and I heard a lot of stories and stuff. And Sikh Awareness Society as well, Sikh Youth UK. All of these guys are doing great jobs. And so the Sher Punjab was set up to kind of kick some freaking ass, and we did. And although it didn't stop the problem entirely, it did make Muslims think twice when they were doing it. Unfortunately, it went on to the white girls and things just kind of escalated to another level of madness. Anyway, I think I've said my piece. Let the hate begin. Um, like I said, I don't criticize Islam too much in terms of theocracy or theology. I don't see the point of talking about stuff like that. I will criticize Sharia because I think Sharia is a man-made law and doesn't need to be implemented in any way. But when it comes to the grooming situation, this is why I support Tommy Robinson. This is why a lot of Sikhs do support Tommy Robinson, whether they say it out loud. It's not because they dislike Muslims, but because they're sick and tired of the grooming problem that we've been hearing about, and our cousins. We hear stories all the time, and we're just sick and tired of it. So anyway, I hope people listen to this carefully without their hate-filled goggles on, and try and understand what I'm trying to say. I want to resolve this problem, and if it's resolved, people will just move on. But if it's not, and people just start blaming the victims and saying, "Oh, it's not a problem within the Muslim community," no, we're not having that. You've got to start sorting your house out. Anyway, I've done my bit, and I'll go, and I'm gonna probably eat an apple, just to kind of prove it's not stolen. Before anyone starts reporting me to the police, and I have like MI5 coming down, bashing my door in for the apples. I didn't steal them. All right. Bye bye.